All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today we're going to tackle a huge idea about wealth that, well, it sounds completely backwards. What if I told you that obsessing over money is the very thing that's keeping you from actually getting it?
So let's just start with this question, right? It kind of gets to the heart of what we all believe about building wealth. I mean, the usual advice is focus on the money, right? Chase that big salary, pinch every penny. But what if that's all wrong? What if that's the exact opposite of what you should be doing? Because, it's funny. When you actually dig into the patterns of history, this really surprising truth pops up. The people who build real, lasting wealth, they almost never seem to talk about money. Weird, right?
Okay, so let's dive into what I mean. There's this classic story that just perfectly illustrates this whole paradox. We're going to go way back in time, all the way to the 1850s. So you've got the California gold rush, right? Thousands and thousands of people are risking absolutely everything, obsessed with the idea of striking it rich. But here's the twist. The vast majority of them, they left with nothing, totally broke. So who actually got rich? Well, it was the people selling the shovels and the pans and, those super durable Levi's jeans. See, they weren't obsessed with the gold at all. They were just focused on providing value. They were solving a problem for all the people doing the chasing. And this story, it just brilliantly illustrates a pattern we see over and over and over again throughout financial history. Trust me, the gold rush was not a one-off thing.
I mean, just look at this timeline. Back in the 1920s, you had the stock market bubble, which, ended in the Great Crash. Then, fast forward to the 2000s, we had the dot-com bubble. Then, boom, 2008, the housing crisis. And of course, more recently, the whole crypto craze. Every single time, the story is exactly the same. A huge crowd gets obsessed with fast money, and a huge crowd ends up losing it all. So that brings up a really important question, right? If history keeps teaching us the same painful lesson, why on earth do we keep falling into the same trap? Well, here's the crucial point. It's not just about history. It's about our own psychology. The real answer isn't out there in the markets. It's actually inside our own heads. So let's talk about that. Let's actually explore how our own brains are basically hardwired to make terrible mistakes when money is the only thing we're thinking about. And you know what? Behavioral finance actually gives us the answer. There's this Nobel Prize winner, Daniel Kahneman, and he discovered something called loss aversion. Now, all this means is that for our brains, the pain of losing $100 is way, way more powerful than the joy of gaining $100. So what happens? When we fixate on money, we become absolutely terrified of losing it. And ironically, that fear causes us to panic, to cling too tightly, and to make just awful fear-based decisions. This obsession with not losing, it really sabotages us. It does it in 3 specific ways, and each one just pushes wealth farther and farther away. Okay, so first, you totally stop thinking long-term. You're chasing the next bonus or the next hot stock without ever stopping to ask, hey, how does this fit into my larger plan? And the perfect, if kind of sad example of this is lottery winners. I mean, studies show most of them end up broke within just a few years. Why? Because they got a pile of money, sure, but they never built the systems for keeping and growing that wealth. All right, second, you start focusing on price instead of value. And oh man, this is such a huge trap. You've probably heard the saying, right? It's like stepping over dollars to pick up pennies. You're so focused on the small stuff, you miss the big win. I mean, think about it for a second. Someone might fight tooth and nail for an extra $1 an hour at their job, but then they'll refuse to spend a single dime to learn a new skill that could make them $50 more an hour. It's crazy. They'll grab a flashy paycheck, but completely ignore an opportunity that offers way more freedom, or more growth, or more purpose, just because that initial number on the check is a little bit lower. And third, and this one is a big one, this obsession traps your brain in what's called a scarcity mindset. When all your mental energy is focused on, I don't have enough, your brain's vision, it literally narrows. It physically cannot see new opportunities for growth. Your creativity, your ability to plan for the long term, it just gets shut down because your brain is stuck in survival mode. And the really scary part is your focus on lack actually creates more lack. So, okay, if obsession is the problem, then what in the world is the solution? Well, this is where the whole idea just flips right on its head. The alternative isn't some fuzzy think rich mantra. It's about acting in a completely different way. See, the real alternative is to shift from that money-obsessed mindset to a value-focused one. So instead of that short-term fear-based chasing, you start long-term growth-based building. Your decisions suddenly become strategic, not emotional. And believe me, that one little shift, it changes absolutely everything about how you operate. And you know what? History's greatest wealth creators, they totally got this. Rockefeller? He didn't obsess over getting rich. He obsessed over refining oil better and more efficiently than literally anyone else on the planet. And Warren Buffett, he didn't chase quick stock flips. No way. He focused on the slow, patient, long-term compounding of value. For these guys, money was just the result. It was never the mission. So here it is. The really crucial point is this. When you focus on building your skills, on solving problems, on creating something people actually want or need, you just naturally stop making those fear-based, short-sighted decisions. You're building, you're growing, you're serving. And you know what happens? Wealth becomes the natural, logical byproduct of all that incredible value you've created. And that brings us right back to where we started, doesn't it? Back to the gold rush. Only now, armed with this new perspective, the choice is really yours to make. So, the final question I want to leave you with is a really personal one. In your life, in your career, are you the one digging for gold, chasing that shiny object, hoping for a lucky strike? Or are you the one selling the shovels? Are you focused on building the tools, the systems, and the lasting value that truly, truly creates wealth? You know, history has already shown us the answer. The only real question left is, which path are you going to choose?